Hello, everybody. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson, and the topic of the day is the Northern Lights. That's right. The chances this weekend of seeing the Northern Lights Friday night and again on Saturday are very good. Here's what the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has to say about those chances and where they are. Now, as you see this red map here, the red indicates areas where the chance is excellent for seeing northern lights. Now, that includes Montana, the Dakotas, up into northern Minnesota. Even the greens have a really good chance at seeing northern lights as we go through the Friday night time frame into the early hours of Saturday morning. Now, the red line, that'll be about the northern extent of where the chances are good, but we still may see northern lights as far south as California, Nevada, Colorado, all the way into parts of Arkansas, maybe even Georgia as we go through. That's Friday night. And it's all because the energy coming from the sun is very high. There's this thing called the KP index, and it's at 8. The range is 9. So the amount of energy that is heading earthward is substantial, and it is impacting the Earth as we speak and interacting with the Earth's magnetic field. Now, this is a look at Saturday's chances. The red areas, the real good chance of seeing the northern lights, that extends northward into portions of central and northern Canada. But we still have a very good chance all the way from Oregon through the Dakotas, maybe even Iowa and into upstate New York, of seeing the solar event once again take place and the northern lights up as far north as the northern tier of states. That's on Saturday night. So Friday night, Saturday night, 2 nights in a row of seeing this event potential unfold. So what is all of this talk about? What causes it? Every so often, the sun goes through these maximum periods and minimum periods of sunspots. And it's these sunspots that are actually little geomagnetic storms on the surface of the Earth. And they aren't so little. The one that threw all of this energy towards Earth is several times larger than the Earth itself. So this little sun dot, this black sunspot on the sun, if it happens to be pointed towards Earth when that geomagnetic storm happens on the surface of the Earth, it ejects this energy, this plasma, towards the surface of the Earth. Now, many times these sunspots happen and it goes off this way and that way, and it does not impact us. But once in a while, when it heads earthward, it can impact us. Now, the beautiful things that happen are the northern lights. That's one of the fine features of seeing this activity transpire. But it can actually interfere with radio transmissions, satellite transmissions, or even the communication with those satellites to help steer them can be offset. So there may be impacts to other things with this level of a geomagnetic storm. Let's talk a little bit about where you could go to see the northern lights. If you happen to be around a big city, the chances are always better if you can get away from the light pollution. So the aurora chance happens tonight on Friday night and again on Saturday night. Head away from city lights. And because we call it the northern lights, you're looking towards the northern horizon. And in many cases across the United States, particularly if you're in a southern latitude where you rarely see them, you want to look very low on the horizon, almost just above the skyline. So Hutch likes to say, head away from the city lights, but put the city lights to your south. So when you're looking to the north for the northern lights, there won't be as much light pollution. Does that make sense? So again, between your eyeballs and the northern lights, you don't want city lights in the way. Now, sometimes these northern lights will fool you. I live up in the northern plains. We see them a lot. I've seen them a lot. And once in a while, it'll just look like it's a city glow, a little shimmering of light in the sky that isn't even moving that fast. It just looks like a glow. And it looks like lights from another city that are creating it. But when you look closely, you'll see the emerald green shifting and shaping and changing its shape as it goes along. So keep that in mind. And forecasting the northern lights is a challenge as well because, well, they don't necessarily happen all night long everywhere. So the energy travels and passes just like a stream flows faster or slower in some areas. So because of that, well, we may see periods where it really is active and then it settles down for a while. So grab some popcorn, head north of the city lights, look low on the horizon toward the north, and now when? Now, wherever you live, sunset is a big deal. We need to give that sun a little bit of time to get below the horizon so you get a chance to see those northern lights because you'll have a better chance if it's really, really dark outside. So up here in the northern plains, we like to go out well after 10 o'clock at night. And it might be the same for you. But if your sun sets at, say, 7:30 or 8 o'clock, you could probably go out by 10 o'clock and there'll be a chance at seeing them as we go through, but all night long. Now, one of the big things is, where's it going to be cloudy and where will I have a chance to see it? Let's take a look at this. First, we're going to look at a high resolution model. I'm going to load this up at the national level here. So give me one moment while I load up the national map. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the cloud forecast as if we were looking at a visible satellite imagery through the overnight. So this is one way to allow a high resolution, high performing model to help us detect whether or not you'll have a chance at seeing those northern lights in your community or not. So let's go ahead and take a look at this now. Let me see if I can move this up on your screen. Okay, so what you want to focus on here is your area of the country, okay? And now as I set this into motion, here we go through our day today. And what you're going to notice is there's going to be a batch of clouds moving through the Great Lakes. There's going to be clouds in the northern Great Lakes and a cool front that extends through Iowa that will bring a chance of clouds as we go through the evening tonight. But here it is as we cross a little bit later, and this is 10 o'clock tonight, Central Time. 10 o'clock tonight, Central Time is what you're looking at. Pay no mind to where it says valid 18Z. That isn't changing correctly. This is the 10 o'clock hour on this Friday night. So the East Coast will have some clouds in New York and in parts of Pennsylvania, particularly the eastern side. So the East Coast will have a few clouds to contend with. Same thing with the deep south in Texas, a few hit and miss clouds, particularly in and around Louisiana, as you see there, and the mountains of Colorado, the southern mountains, through parts of, well, Utah. Otherwise, most of the nation will have a very good chance at seeing the northern lights tonight, and clouds should not play too much of a role. Here is a look as we cross into, say, the 2 a.m. time frame. We'll have a few clouds rolling out of Canada, northern Michigan, much of eastern Michigan, including Detroit, all the way down into parts of Toledo and maybe Cleveland, seeing some increasing clouds. Same with the Denver metro area as we look in the mountains of Colorado, seeing some cloud cover there. Montana, same thing goes. Here's first thing in the morning then. So overnight tonight, most of the nation stays cloud-free. It looks like the Great Lakes area will see clouds. Northern parts of New York State will see clouds. Could have some clouds racing through the Virginias and the Ohio River Valley, as well as the Central Rockies, and that's it. Now there's a chance for the northern lights again tomorrow. Here's your daylight hours tomorrow, and here we go into sunset time. And yippity skippity, we have more clouds moving through the Great Lakes region, northern Minnesota, seeing some clouds making their way through as we go toward the 10 o'clock hour again. Colorado, another tough night of viewing there with clouds aplenty in places like Texas and Arkansas with some thunder showers there developing. So that's your forecast for Saturday night, and the clouds and thunder continue across Texas, Louisiana, and the Gulf Coast states. Showers of rain and cloud cover in the northeastern United States will limit your Saturday night viewing, and your Saturday night viewing in the northern plains looks pretty good, and the West Coast is clear both nights. That's a look at the cloud forecast with regards to looking at the northern lights. Now let me elaborate just a minute more about the northern lights and how they happen. So this solar wind, we call it, this plasma, this energy coming from the sunspot, that little geomagnetic storm that happened on the surface of the sun, if it's directed earthward, then that plasma travels towards the earth. The earth has a magnetic field, and that magnetic field will interact with that solar wind. You see, that plasma is little ions or charged particles, and the magnetic field will interact with charged particles, either with a positive or a negative charge. And what it does is it excites the gas in some of our atmosphere, and it can cause them to excite electrons to a different level. Pardon me. And that can eject light. So that's how the northern lights happen. And again, a look at what you can do and where you can go to see the northern lights the best. All right, pardon me while I've had a little coughing fit here. I apologize for that. So the northern lights, definitely a probability across the United States on this Friday night. If you want to see more, you can check out some Aurora sites that are going to be linked below, and they will have some cameras across the world, and I'll link that right here in the comment section so you can take a look tonight at different places across the world that may be experiencing the northern lights. And if you've seen them, drop a comment in the section below. I'd love to hear from you. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. It's always exciting up here in the northern plains to see northern lights, but it's when this happens in the atmosphere, it's pretty cool. And by the way, green happens to be the most color, as you see behind my Chevelle right here. That's one night that we had up here in the northern plains in Minnesota. And I can tell you that it's a beautiful sight, but the colors that you see depend on the gas that the ions are interacting with. So if it's oxygen, oxygen tends to create more of these green hues that we see. And how excited the electrons get depends on what color we often see. Sometimes oxygen can actually eject different color lights, like even reds, if that electron is really excited to the next level or orbital level. So different gases like nitrogen, oxygen, and argon can emit different colors of light that you see in the sky. A lot to see. Here's a couple of pictures to share with you. This was me out and about here in the northern plains on a snowy night across northern Minnesota. And yeah, there were some beautiful northern lights. And again, that Aurora forecast both Friday night and Saturday looked good for the northern plains, even down to the deep far south as we head through the next several hours. It's going to be a great night. I hope you get a chance to get out and invite it or see it and grab some pictures. It's not too hard to take good pictures. You might want to extend how long that your camera is taking the picture to just a few seconds, and make sure you're holding that camera super still, maybe even set it on something. A lot of fun to see the northern lights. I hope you get a chance to see them. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. I appreciate your likes on this video if you like the content. And I'd love to have your subscription right here to Hutch's Weather. Don't forget to hit the bell down below to be notified when I have new content for you. Have a wonderful weekend and happy Mother's Day.